Okay, hello everyone. I'm here with Tasha today.
Hi, everyone.
So what we're going to talk about, we thought it would be helpful to hop on here and talk about why we give away so much stuff for free. And also, if you are a business owner, you might be feeling like I've done so much hard work and it kind of stings to give so much stuff away for free. So we're going to share a few things about our philosophy, what we've done in the past, what we're doing now, and really how we found that we get the most clients, what is kind of that sweet spot, I guess. So I'm going to ask Tasha some questions. And if you guys want a copy of the notes, just go ahead and put notes below and we'll make sure to get those over to you. So Tasha, since I knew we were going to be talking about this, I was thinking back to our journey, our giving away free stuff journey.
And I want to add that if you guys have additional questions on what we're talking about, also pop them in the comments because I think that what we talk about is also going to bring up some questions in their mind. We can come back and answer them.
Yeah, good job. I like that. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll delete that. Okay, so when you started this business, I wasn't even with you right out of the gate. I mean, pretty soon thereafter, but I know that your philosophy at that time was really just help people and don't worry about having gated content. And so, do you want to just share kind of how things started and why you decided that you were okay with just giving away so much stuff for free that you had worked really hard on?
Yeah, so when I first started, I stepped into the space thinking I would be a content creator. And I'm thinking right now about the whiteboard that I have right there that still has the vision from 2015 that I still keep in my office. And it says, like, who, I, what, where, how, but like the what is kick butt social media content, and then it would go into something else. And so that was like what I thought. And the people that I was listening to at the time, they were doing daily podcasts. It was more in the podcasting space because I was commuting to my job an hour and 15 minutes each way. And so it was just like, it was just like, here's the pod, here's everything, right? And so that
Yeah.
was the model that I was following. The other thing that happened pretty early, right when I left my job, was so first, my concept of content was put out amazing content, period. There was no like definition of what free content was, paid content. There wasn't any of that. It was like just put
Yeah.
out the coolest, best stuff you can think of. And that is what got me my first few clients because they
Yeah.
listened to it and they were like, this is really cool. You know stuff I don't know. And I think you can help me. And it was different enough. The next thing that happened is I read the book, The Prosperous Coach. And The Prosperous Coach talked about this core concept that I still believe to this day that never did leave us is that clients are created. We don't attract clients, we create clients.
That's so good.
And so, what that means is that nobody knows what the heck coaching is. And maybe now, 10 years ago, they know more about conceptually what it is. But coaching is actually an experience, and every single coach has a different experience on how they create wins. And so, it's not actually possible for people to understand what they're buying or not buying in working with us if they haven't experienced it ahead of time. So when I first started, the Prosperous Coach strategy was you do a complimentary coaching call, you coach your brains out, you help them get a win. You don't close right there. You're just like, let's get you a win and then let's loop back later and see. I
Mhm.
never did multiple comp coaching calls, but in the Prosperous Coach, they're basically like, if you like them and they're a hell yeah kind of client, there's like
Yeah.
two clients, hell yes and hell no. There's no in between. And so if they fell in this place where you're like, I want to work with them, the Prosperous Coach was like, create that client until they are created. Come
Mm.
back, offer them another comp coaching call, then come back again until they are created. And we still have this strategy in place
Yeah.
when we have like a 100% hell yes client, we will still continue to do this kind of underneath on the side when we know we have someone that would be really great with us. So that's where that philosophy came from. And honestly, I didn't know about this concept of gating content
Yeah.
because I was too new to do that. And so I just still believe to this day, I don't think this has ever changed, that what we need to do is create wins in advance.
Yeah. I love that. So there was a lot of revenue created during that period of just giving away so much good stuff? Like how much revenue?
So our first year was 80,000, which is still really good for a first year. Year two was, and a lot of it was word of mouth that we couldn't control. And so one of the key things that happened in that process was we were doing this speaking engagement called the closing webinar, and we were working in network marketing with network marketing leaders. We give them the YouTube link. And we just be like, here's this YouTube link, give it to anyone on your team forever and ever and ever and ever. What happened is they started sharing it with their colleagues. They started sharing this YouTube link around to all the other leaders, and then we just started getting flooded with emails and
Yeah.
messages like, can you please come and run this training for our team and have them buy your coaching program? And we were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And that was really the biggest way we grew.
Yeah. So then something happened, and I was trying to remember when it happened. Was it my idea? I don't know. Where there were conversations about we're basically giving away too much stuff. And maybe it's when we started to sell courses. I don't know. But anyway, I don't remember what happened. Maybe you remember kind of what that shifted in terms of we started having thoughts of like, gosh, we don't really want to give away this much stuff for free. Do you remember what created that shift?
So there was really one big change, and that was made people opt in for that webinar.
Yeah.
That was the big change, I think, the beginning of all that, because we still allowed people to share what they taught in our core, like whatever they learned in our course, they could teach people. We still had our podcast running at that point. I think we were publishing twice a week. So we had still, I don't think the thing fundamentally changed. What happened, and this really happened a lot to me, and I don't know how much we even talked about it, but I had a lot of clients telling me you're giving away too much free.
Mm,
So it was like there was these outside forces that were not necessarily knowledgeable in the strategy, aligned with the value, et cetera, et cetera. Not that they were unaligned, but they like it didn't come from the same place. And so we started to get on my side some, I guess we'll call it criticism or just like, you don't charge enough. You're giving away too much for free. Like, you need to change these things out
hmm.
of a protective instinct of me. So I think that's really what planted the seed. The other thing I think was just well-meaning. I don't even think it was a wrong thing. But we were like, okay, well, if they opt in, we want to be able to give them a fast action bonus. We
Yeah.
want to make sure that they get our emails so they can continue to learn and grow and not miss out on whatever thing that we had maybe pitched them on that webinar, which is a timed thing, so they wouldn't be able to participate, right? So I don't think it came from a really wrong place. And
Hmm.
I don't just what happened is it shut down word of mouth. Less
Yeah.
people opted in, less people saw that webinar, word of mouth constricted for that, and maybe some other reasons. But that's how I remember it happening. And
Yeah.
so I don't think it was any one idea. I think it was a culmination of a few things that were like, okay, let's fix this. Now at that time, our coaching programs were really still inexpensive. They were flying off the shelf with word of mouth. And then I think later what happened is we got too much marketing training.
Yeah.
I think that we ended up in a community, this is several years later, that was like the number one thing you need to do is raise your prices. And yes, that's usually true, but it was just applied to everything all the time. It was just really, it
Hmm.
started to get really confusing around what should be free and what should be paid. And then I think when you start to get stressed and maybe sales are down, right? I think that naturally we start to become resentful of like, I'm giving you my life's work and you're not appreciating it, which is not even what happens. But like when we get in a scarcity mode or in a desperate mode, that's what starts to, that it, applies to different things all the time.
Yeah, I think that that's so good and so true, right? Because I also watch you build all of these courses and firsthand saw all the work that went into all of the things. And so that protective mode, I think, is something that gets set in, whether it's for ourselves, like I don't want to give everyone all this stuff, or I don't want you, my business partner, to give all this stuff away. People should pay for this. So do you remember? I mean, I think that you kind of spoke to this with what happened, but so what happened in our audience when we became more guarded was just word of mouth shut down, and then it didn't help with sales, right?
It didn't help.
And
That's
so,
ultimately the effect is gating the stuff and creating less content in general does not help because you're like,
Yeah.
there's this idea that it's like, well, if I give them everything, why would they want to work with me? But you're not giving them everything.
Yeah, I want to
There's,
talk about that.
okay.
Okay, so because I've been thinking about that a lot. So, what do you think is so we give all of this content away for free, and then we have clients that are in our coaching program. So, can you explain why free content alone isn't usually enough for people to get the results that they want? Because if
Well,
they're going to get
so
the
it's
results that they want, they're not going to work with us, right?
no, I don't believe that. So I disagree with the premise and the question
Okay,
entirely.
yeah.
Hopefully that's okay. So it's not really about the results. And it's not about free content isn't going to get them the results that they want. It's that free content, like it's strategic, right? Usually, free content is about creating wins in advance. And then paid content is about structure, support, and speed. So
Hmm.
those are the fundamentally the difference, especially in a world of AI right now, right? Information is nothing, like it's whatever. So when we go to do content, so our sales have gone up since I started publishing 3 times a week on our podcast. We started daily emails instead of we did 3 to 4 times a week. We're on daily
Hmm.
now. And what's happened to sales? Sales have been going up.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is that? So when we create content, what we are looking for is momentum, right? And when people are in momentum, they are more hopeful and they are more likely to buy and create that next level. What is actually really difficult in coaching is coaching someone who has gotten no results. When someone has gotten results in advance and they have wins, they are more positive, more hopeful. They trust you because it's real. They trust the competence. And so that's why sales go up. The other thing about free content is a lot of it is about shifting mindset,
Right.
shifting the way people think about things more than it is about releasing your entire process. So, our number one, I'm looking at podcast stats right now. I know this is probably going to go on all of our platforms, and Facebook groups are still our main platform, but those are the stats I'm looking at. So, the number one podcast is 5 ways you can pray for your business. That is not a marketing system. That is not how to run a conversion event and close effectively, but that is creating sales because of the connection and the relationship and the values are being aligned. The second biggest podcast is How to Hire Your Kids. And interestingly enough, one of the lower performing podcasts is a simple ad strategy that everybody needs. But that is what people are buying the most. So people are just weird, right? They're like, they want to know behind the scenes. They want to take teeny tiny, when I think about free, I think about teeny tiny problems versus the big system. And so what we do in our What to Say coaching program is we're going to go, create rhythms in your business, daily, weekly, monthly rhythms to create consistent clients, 3 to 5 a month. That's a very different objective than a video that is how to hire your kids. It's a teeny tiny piece of how to get to that big thing because you probably need an assistant a couple hours a week and maybe you have labor available in your house. But that's the difference between the free and the paid is it's like, is this a teeny tiny problem? Let's just go ahead and help people with it for free, get them a win, move them into the
Yeah.
next thing. The other way I look at it is we take the paid program, we just start pulling things out, almost like those little Russian doll things where it's like
Yeah.
you open it up and there's a little one inside, and you open it up and there's a
Yeah.
little one inside. That's how I look at content, free content. So we have the big doll, which is the program. You open it up, inside there's a workshop that might be paid. It might be a legitimate paid workshop that you decide to give away for free to increase numbers, like our social media challenge, 100% should be paid. But we decided to give it away for free for the good of the world. And then you open that up, and then we take a piece of that out and make that a video out of that. We open that up and we take a piece out of that and make a like script out of it. And
Yeah.
so those first two, right, the smaller the little doll, we put those out there for free so that people can get those wins.
Yeah. Amazing. I know we have a coaching call to hop on here in a few minutes. So what else do you think is important for people to know about just this overall idea of giving away content for free?
I think that content, whether something, the free stuff, the paid stuff, there actually is some strategy that is involved in it. And it's like, what's the purpose of this content? What do you want to do with it? So sometimes we'll give away something really good for free because we want people to land on the thank you page and register for our event.
Yeah.
So having a purpose for like, what is the point of this free content in my, or what is the point of the content in my business? Is this a core program? Is this a conversion event? Is this something for me to just identify people who have this problem? If we start to understand what is the purpose of it, then we know how to price it or to not price it. The other thing is just to know that more content is better for your business, period. It
Can you
has,
say that one more time? Because it just was glitching out.
oh, more content, more good content, not more crappy content, more cool stuff that your people will like is better than not more content. And I have seen this time and time and time again. Every once in a while, I'll get a little bored and I'll go on like daily lives, sales spike. Then I'm not bored anymore because I'm delivering on it. And so you would think that that would be harmful,
Right.
right? Like the more content I create, the more it takes away from the program, but it just has never proven to be true. If you look at anyone that has sold $1 million or more online and actually press them on this question, they are going to say more content is better. And so, what I want to encourage everyone to know is just to not live in that holding everything really tightly. Part of the online atmosphere is an atmosphere of generosity and giving. And we are just so much happier as creators, as coaches, when we are generous with our content. One of the things I
Hmm.
was talking about to some people I was coaching the other day is the concept of I want to help people. And
Hmm.
so this was a pricing thing that I think applies to this free content thing. And I think it'll be encouraging for a lot of people. So a lot of our people are like altruists at heart. They're like, I was struggling and I want to help people like me. And then we look at it and we're like, well, we need to charge prices that will give you a profitable business. And they're like, but what about the people who can't afford it? I want to help them. So if I charge low prices, I'll get more people. Well, that usually doesn't hold true. So that's flawed. But I was like, okay, fine, raise your prices and then create amazing free content for those people. So
Right.
instead of being fake generous, which is I'm just going to charge low prices, that's usually, self-preservation more than anything. Charge the right price for the services that you have for the people who can afford them, and then provide really good free content instead of diluting your paid content.
Mm.
That is all that's going to do is it's going to serve people that can't afford it, and that's fine. That's great. We're existing, but it's also going to nurture and create win in advance and momentum for the people who can afford it. And so
Hmm.
more people will move towards you. The people who can't afford it will be repelled by that low priced offer. And so you just end up with a big mess. And so I just want to encourage people to just go for it. It's totally fine. And the more content that you create, the better you're going to get at it.
I love it. Amazing.
Do you have
So
any thoughts for people? What's your
yeah,
perspective on all this?
yeah, I think that well, I do, I guess a different perspective too is a lot of the calls that we do. So a lot of not just the content, but also getting on calls with people where we're helping them on calls. And I think that one of the things that I would say, I just had someone who we were testing something. And so I had done like 5 days of free calls with her. And then she came to, I think, I don't know, every free thing that we had over the course of like the last 9 months. And every time I would talk to her, she's like, I can't afford it. But it didn't matter. We still treated her just like a client. And because she told me she couldn't afford it, I didn't stop checking in with her. I wasn't like, oh, this person can't afford it. And so I'm not going to check in with her anymore. She would come to our stuff. I would treat her just like I would anyone else. Anyway, long story short, she's now a client of ours because everything lined up in terms of the timing, and she was
Hmm.
able to get some wins to create some clients in her own business because of what she was consuming with us. And so, my perspective is just that when we're communicating with people in Messenger, because that's a lot of what I do, and when we're inviting people to calls, that if we can just help everyone without worrying about whether they have the money to pay, it will,
Hmm.
not everyone's going to become a client, but many of them will become clients. And so just leading with that idea of help first, the clients will come, I think is just the way that, at
Yeah.
least for me, that's been how I approach Messenger. And I think we're getting clients from that. So
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm not going to hop on the call for 4 more minutes. I don't know about you, but I have one thing that I think we need to talk about, and that's burnout. So, as Karen was talking, like people are going to be like, but I'm going to be so burnt out giving away all this stuff because you talked about comp coaching calls, you talked about free challenges, you talked about following up with people who maybe aren't going to buy, right? So, here's what I'm going to say to that. Have standard work hours, just have them. So people that don't have standard work hours are really more at risk for burnout because they're always thinking about work. They're doing pockets here and there. They're, not making an impact in their business. And so we probably each work 9 hours a day, sometimes on the weekends, and we'll come back around. So I mean, I'd say what, 45-ish, and then whatever, sometimes more, sometimes less. And that's not necessarily a recipe for burnout. And so our free content is within our work hours. It's not that like we work from 8 to 5 and then we're coming on and doing free stuff at 7, 7:30, 8. We're not working
yeah,
100 hours a week and just giving all away all free stuff. That's on the unhealthy side. We are also charging appropriately for our paid services. So that is the other part of it is it works out there. It creates balance naturally in the business. I don't want you to take this and go all or nothing and be like, I'm just never doing anything paid. Like, no, you have to have actual paid offers.
yeah,
You
yeah,
have to do
yeah,
that. So I just want to address that so that people aren't like, but then I'm going to burn out. Like, just have standard work hours, and when your work hours are done, stop.
yeah,
That.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that definitely if we were doing all this and we weren't having any offers and we weren't getting clients, that would be terrible.
yes,
So, right. So inviting people, I mean, I guess the other really important thing, just to piggyback on that, is having a conversion event every single month where you can invite someone to a paid offer. Like every month, we're inviting people to our paid offer. So
sometimes
that
twice a month. Yeah.
right. Yeah, exactly. And then even more often than that, if we're doing calls in between there. So
Right.
making sure that we're putting out enough offers is another really important piece of what makes all of this work. So
Cool. Well, I'm glad we had this conversation. I hope it was helpful to everybody. Let us know what was helpful.
yeah,
And
awesome. Okay.
that's
Bye,
it. All
guys.
right. Bye, everyone.